Hi, everybody. This is Jennifer Stewart, and I am here with Mr. Jeff Anderson, who's one of the owners at Bella Fontana Spa in downtown Denison. I'm super excited to talk to him today. I feel like he was a big mastermind and brain behind keeping this spa open during everything that went on during 2020. And I know that a lot of folks have had trouble kind of maintaining their commercial space in this environment. And a lot of people are considering retail commercial to be a highly speculative investment right now. So I wanted to bring Jeff on because he and his team did such an amazing job of keeping their spa open during 2020. And you really, Jeff, you couldn't have a more hands-on type business than a spa. Go ahead and list off all the things that you guys do there at your spa.
So we do massage, we do facials, we do eyelash extensions, we do waxing, full body waxing. We do nails and pedicures and a bunch of other things that I guess are not quite as close to contact as those first number, but it's a close environment. It's usually a service provider and a client in a room for an hour, 90 minutes, or 2 hours, depending on the service. And it's been tricky.
Yes, and you guys, I mean, you've seen stores kind of close all around you. And I know that whenever we were speaking last year, there were some things that you guys did because you guys were forced to close by the state. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. For 2 months, I think. It would have been middle
Wow.
of March to early May.
Okay, so a whole 2 months, the state said you guys have to shut down.
Mm-hmm. And then we were allowed to reopen cosmetology services specifically for, I think, 4 weeks or so before we were able to do our full business. Now, our model has always been massage is very critical for us to be profitable in the first place. So that was a scary moment when we weren't allowed to do the bread and butter service.
Right. Yes, for sure. So tell me, what were some things that you did? Because I mean, I was speaking with all of you, and everyone there in the spa gave you credit for keeping the place open like you did. What all did you do, Jeff, to pay the bills and pay your staff during that time?
It was very much a collaborative effort. I don't want to act like it was just me. There's four of us that own the business, and it was hours and hours of us sitting in rooms and talking about what's smart and what's ethical and what's realistic. And sometimes all three of those are very different things. Right.
Yeah, that's so and, true.
It was there was a lot of that collaborative effort and multiple people like working together and making things like that happen. So I don't want to try to. I appreciate you because we've talked as much as we have about all this. Like I appreciate the credit you're giving me, but I want to make sure that goes kind of where it's due. It was all of us. But yeah, I mean, the number one thing we wanted to do in the midst of all of this is we kept reading different things as like different news was coming out and different things were breaking that all of these different businesses were behaving so unethically, right? And we come out of corporate environments, all of us, except for Amy, who is with school district. And those environments kind of have certain necessary evils that we were trying to get away from in the first place. So it was only very natural for us to kind of reactionarily be like, no, we're just going to keep everybody paid. And then
and that's what that really was
to back us up on that. And it was like it was the right decision at the time. And then we kept with it. And we never had anybody on any kind of unemployment. We never lost anybody. We were going on day one of services being allowed and legal. So we got to pick up all of the slack in the economy as the engine was kind of being jump started back up. Without paying any of the price to any of our clients for having been greedy like that salon owner in Dallas. What was her name? Luther. Ran
Oh,
for
I
state.
remember. Yes, right.
Like I'm sure that she did well after all of the PR and
The
press and all of that.
publicity.
I
Yes, right.
definitely, I'm not saying that that probably didn't go very well for her. I'm sure it did, but that would not have worked in Denison, right? Because it's just it's a different environment. You don't want to upset people on that broad a scale.
Interesting. Well, and that's one way in which I find you to be particularly intelligent is that you are sensitive to things like that, where I tend to paint the world in colors that I want to see. You're a little bit more, you see the world as it is. And I appreciate that about you. Now, if you don't mind me asking, if you don't want to talk about this, then, to say that that's something you need to keep proprietary. But I remember you saying, did you guys get some sort of loans that helped through that time? Were there SBA loans that you used?
No, not SBA. We took PPP. We took both rounds of PPP. We
Okay.
qualified for both rounds of PPP because the first round was you had to be down for a quarter, and we were closed for most of a quarter in 2020. So I mean, like we were right in the middle of what they were trying to get those loans out for. And then we got a second round in early 2021. Yeah, early 21. That because we still had so much revenue down in 2020.
I see.
Now, what was interesting, the back half of that year was big growth numbers because like we were the only people that were firing on all cylinders like we were. But we were close for enough of it that like we were still down for the full year, and it's been a hiccup, but we did okay.
And what were some of the terms of those loans? Are they pretty favorable for the business, or is there any balloon aspects to it where you've got to pay a lot later? Or tell me more about the terms.
Yeah, they were really easy to deal with. We were really terrified taking them in the first place because everything was so unclear about how the forgiveness was going to work. It seemed like it was going to be a really easy way to have a gotcha for like a third of the loan suddenly don't qualify for repayment or whatever. But it's all been really straightforward. Now we spent them like we were supposed to on.
Of course. Well, that's why I even asked about it. If I thought you were unethical, man, I would have never asked, because I know that you guys are really above board. So that's why I was people who are using the loans properly. Yeah. And not fraudulently, which I know you guys use them properly.
There's a lot in the news about people that did not go that route and gotten some trouble, I guess.
Yeah, my friend Larry, he's kind of a watchdog on what the feds are going after. And earlier, I think Q2 of 2021, they were going after people who abused those loans heavily. Interestingly, they weren't going after the folks who may have questionably been using the unemployment. However, they were going heavy after the business loans. And I thought that was interesting.
We did get a lot of fraudulent unemployment claims on different employees. That was weird.
I had the same thing in my agency. A lot of
one
people
of us was applying for unemployment.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh man, how'd you catch it?
I mean, they sent us a letter and we're like, did you apply for unemployment? No. No, I still own this business. So,
oh my gosh. Well, in my agency,
that wasn't even the only one we got. So
you got a few?
Yep.
I know that in my agency, people are like, hey, can you sign this paperwork, for unemployment? I'm like, why? I have hundreds of jobs here for you to work. I'm afraid I can't fill those out because I still have too many people who are needing your help. So what types of responses did you see from clients to the new regulations? What percentage of them were okay? Like, how did you manage and mitigate everything that happened as people walked through the door to these new regulations?
So like 0% of people have been okay, right? So even when it's been like masks required, like the states being really clear that, we're supposed to be requiring masks in a cosmetology or massage sort of environment, like the people who feel better about having masks on still not happy with the fact that they're in such close quarters, because like at the end of the day, there's still inherent risks to being in
Sure.
public.
Sure.
So it's yeah, man, it's nobody's been happy at any point with any of this. Now I will say personally, it was nice for us when there was clear guidance coming from the state. This is the way things are supposed to be. And it was kind of black and white that way, because then we could put signs up that say, please wear a mask. And even the people who do get upset about that kind of stuff would just not come. And
Okay.
like you're going to lose people in a pandemic. There's people on that side.
Yes.
There's people on the whole, like we've got susceptible population clients, diabetic people, that
Right.
sort of, like you're gonna have people that aren't coming in, but we've got other competition that's closing. There's so it's been a weird it's been busy.
That's good. I mean, that's wonderful
Yeah.
news. You guys made it through. And like I said, I've noticed, like, I love the store, the Copper Cat across the street. I mean, they closed and I got some awesome furniture from them. And then, you know, you're the clothing store next door. And now it's a candy store. So,
Well,
I mean,
the clothing store moved across the street from us.
oh, okay. So they didn't close. They just moved their retail space.
Yeah, so that's the way their landlord kind of has a reputation for, like you'll sign a lease with him for a period of time that'll include a bunch of free rent, and you'll build his space out a bit. And then at the end of that period, you kind of know that your lease is going to be going up because he's got a reputation for doing that. You've already heard that.
Okay.
But then it happens, and so you kind of either have to either pay it or move. And most people
That
move.
sounds predatory. That sounds rather
well,
predatory.
You know, I mean, that wouldn't be a way that we would do it. But yeah, I don't want to. They gotta. So you got to look at it the other way, right? They spent probably most of what they were going to pay in lease up front on a startup for a boutique and like
Sure.
a dog bakery. It's a really bold move, right? But they probably didn't put more than 8 or 10 grand, I wouldn't bet, into developing out the retail space. So basically, they've got most of that rent expense up front, and they've got very limited expenses over the course of the next period. And now they're across the street in a space that isn't being, they're not asking for all the money in the world that I'm sure that they are. And they've got an established clientele, and they're just, they're continuing to go exactly like they want to go. Like,
so that's interesting that you guys there on the street you have different landlords right next to. See, for some reason in my head, Jeff, I pictured like the whole street being owned by one person, and that just goes to show how much I need to learn about.
Our guy's a Denison high school graduate that moved to New York City, and he's not here often at all. Next door is used to be Hermanos Realty. You see those signs around. I think it's officially Tracy right now. I'm not sure how all of that works, but I think it's still the same people involved. But yeah.
So every building, like every store, may be owned by a different person.
Mm-hmm. They share space above us too, and that's like a whole mess. They've always got to negotiate every time anything starts to leak.
Oh wow! See, that's so interesting. And so, what all is covered in your lease? Do you have utilities covered? And like when you move, can you take the improvements and fixtures with you? Like, what are some of the terms in your lease that you like?
The lease we signed originally was pretty informal, which was great for us. Like, that is, if you that worked out really, really well. We have, like, for the most part, stepped up and taken care of most of the upkeep in the building, right? So we added a bunch of plumbing. So when there's been a problem with the plumbing, that's kind of been our problem.
Okay. Yeah. I mean? Right.
But he was really easy with us about letting us put in whatever we were wanting to put in different places. We spent all told probably $30,000-$40,000 building the space out, improving his space. So, I mean, over the course of what's going to now be 4 years, that has got a cost per month that you just kind of stack on top of what's been a relatively low lease payment. It worked out.
That's great. And then you guys, are you still thinking about choosing a larger lease space? Is that something you can talk about publicly, or
Oh,
where you want?
no, we're in the process of building out a building right behind us that we've purchased. We're probably going to have a new company that we're going to open that's going to do property management, and that's going to be a whole adventure because there's like a whole bunch of different stuff that we kind of we want to take. That's always been the way that I see us making like really substantial money. The Stay Spot's fun. We're able to kind of make an impact in the community, and like it's profitable, but it's not like we're just making a ton of money. It's definitely not a money press. It's a lot of work.
You're not kidding. You're kind of preaching to the choir over here,
Yeah.
And so, no, I feel you. So two
But
things I heard there is you're going to be purchasing a commercial building, not leasing, and possibly thinking about starting a property management company.
Well, yeah, because I mean, as we build equity in this building, that enables magic.
Yes, yeah, that's a good word for it. My accountants never called it that, but yes.
Yeah, that'll be a whole new field for us. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That's a few years out yet.
That would be great
right now.
Well, it's so needed. I mean, great property management is needed all over the country. And what I notice is, because like you said, there's not a lot of money into it, a lot of property managers won't take on C-class properties. And so that just compounds some of the poverty problems, right? It's easy for me to sit here and say from my couch, that, oh, well, that's what we need. But I don't know how to make it profitable enough to get good property managers often behind those C-class properties. So affordable housing is a big challenge, and then property management on affordable housing is also a challenge.
I'll tell you what always seems to be the most interesting is when you have a landlord that pairs up with an entrepreneur who, like the landlord really shares the vision that entrepreneur has got. Then you start getting this ability for somebody to start investing into that guy's property, right? With long-term vision. I'm gonna be here the next 10 years, so why would I not put $80,000 into this space? Like that's good for everybody involved whenever you get those types of relationships. But unfortunately, a lot of investment-minded people only see right here. They don't play the long game.
Well,
which I get there's opportunity costs and things like that, but like there's also quality of life. Those are easy relationships when they develop because everybody is like they're sold on each other's mutual best interest. Like we're on the same team.
Well said. Well, like to your point about short-sighted thinking, there's transactional and then there's wealth building. So a lot of newer investors, they are by necessity focused on transactional because they need their food money, their bread money. And then once you get a good transactional business built up well enough, then you can start kind of thinking about that legacy wealth, that generational wealth, the community impact. And I think helping people bridge their vision between transactional and wealth building is definitely a leadership attribute, which it sounds like you have. And I think that's fantastic. And so what features are you looking for in your new building space? Like what made you decide that particular building that you're looking at?
Oh, we're simply out of room, and it was not on the market. We talked to the right person and said, hey, we're looking for a building. And he says, well, I have this building I've been sitting on. This is what you're looking at in it. We're going to spend more money repairing the building than we purchased it for. Like, it's not some gym. It's a lot more rough than it is diamond, but we're going to make it into something great.
Like they say, there's no such thing as a cheap property for a reason, right?
Oh no, yeah, we're spending a lot of money, a ton of money.
Yes,
I think it's gonna come out all right. But yeah, that's the opportunity just came up for something that was from the project from start to finish was going to be within reach of like what we're capable of paying. So
That's great. And another area that I noticed you're really great at, that a lot of people that would love to be in commercial retail could use a lot of help with, Jeff, and that is how you manage your employees. So you do a really great job with that. And with everything that went on in 2020, we've talked about the need to get tested and that high close contact business if someone gets sick. How
Yeah.
did you manage your employees in a way that you feel like, other people could hopefully learn from? And because it's not easy to ask someone to go get a test and spend $150 or
It's hard.
$75 or whatever it is,
Well, so number one, why are you asking your employee to do something that's not in their own best interest and spend money on it? That was not a thing we ever did. We said, go down to urgent care at first, right? And get a
Right.
test. And as free testing, like free fast testing became more ubiquitous, it was go down to get this free test at different places. And they weren't spending money on that. Whenever anybody has had to spend any money on getting a test, there's an assumption that it's going to be reimbursed, and it is.
Oh, that's nice. Well, see, there you go. There's a great point right there. I love that.
So and that's the thing, when anybody has to quarantine, they're losing income. We have kept them paid historically through the course of this whole thing when they're out, but there's no expectation that we're going to pay their tips, right?
Of course. Right.
And there's a lot of that's undeclared money that so I'm sure they're thankful that they have the guaranteed income that they have. Yes. But it's also it's not an ideal situation for anybody involved. Nobody wants to be on those terms. It's been very hard to make sure that they know that we really have got their best interests at heart in the whole thing. And that's been the key. I think we've got this mentality that we're all in this together. And if the business sinks, it sinks before the individual employees that make up the business sinks. Like it's the shield for all of us.
Yes. Well, that's very well said. And if you had to go through the height of 2020 again, right? The word I'm trying to avoid there. Yeah, is there anything that you would do differently in hindsight that you feel like we could benefit if something like this were to ever happen again in our lifetimes?
Would have done differently in hindsight? Oh man, if I was in charge of things, it would have been amazing to have us have a real closure for those 2 months or whatever. Like it was halfway closed. Nobody was ever really taking any kind of effort to do anything. And we all had this sense like we have this theater going about we're going to pretend like this is going to stop the spread of this.
True.
Right. But we're all watching everybody go to work at Taco Bell every day. And they're like working in the kitchen there, and it's like,
there were a lot of half measures that made it like a slow drip. That made it like a slow drip, and it seemed almost arbitrary. Some enforcement here and some there.
I think if we'd all just bit the bullet and like really stayed home for a couple of months and close the Taco Bells. I don't know why that's such a controversial such everybody, and because you remember how it was back in February of with when the water was off all over Texas.
Oh yes. Now our water didn't get turned off, but that we were lucky. I mean, we were lucky. All we did was lose internet for a little bit.
There was bottled water that you could get all over the place. I don't think there were people that died in that, but they died of exposure. They didn't die of thirst. They didn't die because
and getting out was treacherous. So even if you could get, good luck to you. Luckily there was snow everywhere.
That was a mess.
You get a bucket and you bring it inside, it's going to thaw eventually, but I don't know if there's enough thawing to meet the needs of a family or flush your toilet or whatever. So
I just feel like we could have kept everybody fed for 2 months and maybe actually stopped this before. I don't know how many died. A lot.
Yeah.
a lot.
I have
And we're
no
still
idea.
dealing with economic impacts of it. So like, now we've got this whole thing about who's gotten their shots and hasn't, and when
Oh,
people can
true. Yes, you're
work
right.
and versus exposure. And we've had these half closures, and the last one cost us like $8,000 to keep like half of our people home. And there's this whole fairness issue. I wish we'd have done something serious about it right at the start. And
Well, and
maybe
some
get
of
a new
us had
deal
to
in
just
that
work
situation.
straight through, I mean, I was one of the people where it's like I was working remotely and I was seeing other people take off and it was cool. And I was low
Yeah.
key jealous, like, oh my God, I wish to God I was just sitting here like reading and writing and doing whatever I feel like doing in my house. But I had to just go balls to the wall, pardon the expression, working so
Sure.
hard doing acquisitions for real estate investors all over the country. And I was grateful to be able to pay for my family and keep working and stay relevant. But I'm not going to lie, Jeff, I was like really kind of wishing I had a paid 2-month break there, which is why I guess I have to work hard and like give that to myself here. But I
Well,
love it.
mine was a paid break technically, but it was probably the most stressful 2 months of my life.
You
So
were carrying a heavy load in terms of responsibility. You were. No, it was not a break for
it's
you
not
because
great. It was not
you're
great.
not an
We
employee.
were talking about doing a press on nails for a little while. We were going to have everybody, because you don't have to have a license to make press ons. And we were like, all right, we're going to keep people paid once PPP money's up like this. And then they reopened it and we were like, okay, maybe there's other ways. And it was
Hey,
fun.
I was proud to be one of the first massages when it opened, man.
No. Yep.
I mean, I was
Oh,
super
that was scary.
stoked.
I'm glad it hasn't been as bad as I was worried it might be at the start.
Yes.
That was a real concern early on there, that this was not smart what we were doing. But it hadn't been as bad as all that.
If a small town spa, okay, if a small town spa, to the brilliance of you and your team there, can make it through 2020, I'm just going to say the word here, through a pandemic. Sure. Okay, if a small town spa can make it through a pandemic with the right knowledge, I mean, would you say that any commercial space could get through something similar? I think about it. I mean, if a small town hands-on spa can get through a pandemic,
man, it's the same differentiators. It's the same differentiators as it is for like when the economy's booming, right? It's things like work ethic and ingenuity and like what your business model is in the first place. How in tune is it with the demographic that you serve? And like for us, like one of the big things was internal consistency. I mean, like our employees believed us when we said you're going to keep getting paid. So tell us when you get sick. And then they did.
I love that. Corporate culture right at the top.
We've been able to really, I feel like, keep anybody from getting exposed. Like I haven't had to make that many calls where I was like, hey, this is the situation. Yeah, the person you were getting this service from was unfortunately, they didn't know at the time, but they were ill.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, who makes those calls?
That's why we've been masking so religiously lately. It's because I'm sick of having to call people and say, hey, your guy wasn't wearing a mask, but yeah, they got sick and you saw them like 12 hours before they started running a fever, so you should probably go get a test. That's not a fun.
And has that have the cases gone down here lately? I know of a couple people here locally who were sick about 3 weeks ago, but I haven't heard anyone that I know of anecdotally being sick in about 3 weeks from this.
Man, I don't know how much you can trust the reporting, right? Because
we talked about that, right? Yeah.
I mean, even in my case, like I had shot, right? So if I get a scratch in my throat, that could be COVID. Like I think this is a real thing, right? Right. I believe that we should like I'll take this very seriously, but I'm still liable to not go get a test if I just have a really mild scratch in my throat as the weather's changing.
Sure, absolutely, yes.
So how many cases are we missing? The answer is probably a
Right.
lot. The answer is probably an awful lot. But you know, who knows? Who knows?
Right. So, but you haven't had anyone out sick. You haven't had any clients calling saying, I had it or I was
Last
sick in
one
a little
was
while, or
2 months ago, right at the start of the last, I guess, wave. Because I mean,
yeah.
you look at it, we seem to be on the other end of a wave right now.
I think we are. Yeah, I think so too, because I'm not hearing about a lot of people really having it right now. So I'm hoping we're getting a reprieve before
nice.
the next variant comes along, right?
I was reading something the other day about some of the models saying next spring may be the end of this. I don't know what that's based on, but he was reading something random on the internet, and they said next spring.
Well, wouldn't that be nice? Well, who can predict what will happen in the future? But I wanted to showcase you guys' business as an example of what's possible, because like I mentioned, a lot of investors are really running away from commercial. Some more intrepid ones are purchasing speculatively, and with so many things moving to online in terms of retail, at least you can be sure in your case that massages are not going to, you can't sell a massage online. You can't having someone come and do your hair online. So, I mean, your job is not going to be outsourced overseas just to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, like what we're seeing. Robots. Yeah, until it's robots. I don't think I would ever want a robot massaging me ever. And I'm pretty forward thinking.
Give it 20 years, man. 20 years.
20 years, I may just be glad anything is touching me. So
right.
Okay, awesome. Well, how can they reach you? What's your phone number and what's the address out there? And what type of specials are you running, if any? Like, tell me what's going on in your seasonal awesomeness that you guys do sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll probably be announcing a big Christmas special here in a few weeks, usually either right before or right after Thanksgiving. But in previous years, we've done like buy two, get one free on different stuff. So there'll be something going on like that, I'm sure. But yeah, we're at 420 West Main in downtown Denison. It's 2 doors down from the Rialto Theater, and the phone number is at 903-893-6222. You can find us online at bellafontanaspa.com, and we do everything like I said earlier as far as day spa services go. We massage, facials, manicures, pedicures. We got the best nail techs in the world.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Really killer eyelashes. I'm gonna steal you for your eyelashes.
Hey, you may not have to. I think my lady's about to fire me, so I'll tell you about that.
Oh no. Oh no.
Well, I might be a little high maintenance, Jeff, just a touch.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
I'll tell you more about that offline. So
yeah, I'd love to hear the story. But yeah, we'd love to see anybody come down sometime. It's a little bit Denison's kind of has a different speed than most of the rest of what you might call the Metroplex.
Yes.
And I feel like we're kind of right in the middle of what Denison's doing, and I like where we're at.
Awesome. Well, you guys are part of what makes Denison so awesome. I'm going to stop the recording, but let's stay on, Jeff, and we'll chat a little bit more. I know you guys are about to go out to eat. So, all right. Yep. Thanks, everyone. If you have any questions for Jeff, reach out to him on Facebook or reach out to me, because I know he's got a great formula for success in the commercial retail space going on right now. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for watching, and I'll be right with you, Jeff.